Dear former admissions officer. Hey, that's me. Dear FAO, I want to go to an Ivy League, particularly one that offers early decision. Can you share examples of an application that results in an acceptance letter versus examples of an application that results in a rejection letter, specifically in the early rounds from Curtis? Curtis, that's a great question regarding acceptance letters and rejection letters and deferrals, which we'll talk about in the early rounds, particularly from highly selective schools. Just for those of you who might not know, there are a few different rounds offered in American admissions. The first one is early decision 1, which is going to be a binding commitment, meaning that you're going to apply by November 1st. You'll find out your results mid-December. And if you go, you are legally obligated to attend the school. There's early action, and in early action, there's non-restrictive and restrictive, meaning that if you apply early, you don't have to go. If you get in, you'll find out your results mid-December, apply November 1st. Restrictive means that you can only apply to one school early action. So those would be your schools like Harvard, Yale, Princeton, Stanford. And then there's non-restrictive, meaning that you can apply there early. You don't have to go if you get in, and they don't care where else you apply. So those would be schools like UChicago, MIT, USC. There's regular decision, and that deadline is January 1st through 5th generally, and you'll find out your results in a few months after that. Those are going to be where you apply for most of your other schools, and that is no commitment or binding if you get in, and you can apply anywhere else as well. And then there's early decision 2, which is not as common. It's the most uncommon one out of all of these rounds. And early decision 2 is the deadline is January 1st through 5th generally, and you'll find out a little bit earlier than regular decision, and it is a binding commitment. So if you get in, you have to go. Now, as far as what the different results you can get from the early rounds are, you can get accepted, which is amazing. You can get deferred, meaning that you are going to be considered again in the regular round, and then there's going to be rejection. So as far as what are the type of applications that we see that work, we want to see students that really want to go to those schools. You'll see that acceptance rates for early rounds tend to be slightly higher than regular round, and a lot of times it's not because schools are evaluating applications differently during those times. It's because we see that most of the time students who are applying these early rounds generally want to go a little bit more. So we see that reflected in the writing. The writing quality tends to be a little bit higher for early rounds. When we're thinking about UChicago, for example, we offer early decision 1 and early action just for the early round specifically. And so some students that oftentimes are getting acceptances from us are students that, for example, at UChicago, we care a lot about how you think and not necessarily what you think as much. So we want to see students that love learning for the sake of learning. It's kind of what we're known for. In terms of students that we might reject instead of defer, deferring is a lot more common at these schools. But if you don't want to get rejected, one year there was a student at UChicago who had clearly written their why UChicago essay for Harvard first and then just done control find replace for Harvard to UChicago. And we know this because they misspelled Harvard at the end. And so when they did control find replace for UChicago, they didn't get the last Harvard. So it started the essay off with, I want to go to UChicago because, and it ended with, I want to go to Harvard, misspelled. So clearly we know that we're not their top choice. So they probably won't go to us if they're accepted. So that was a clear no from us. And we also don't know if Harvard accepted them because they misspelled that school's name. You know, when you're writing these essays and these applications, you want to make sure that, again, it's really tailored to the school as much as you can. Your scores in your extracurriculars obviously need to be top notch, but my biggest recommendation and the reason why you see that discrepancy in the acceptance rates traditionally is because, again, that writing quality is just a lot better in the early rounds. So I hope that answers your question. Getting into a top university is no easy feat, and we're here to help. We are so excited to get you started on your journey, and every Crimson student that joins is met with a uniquely matched team of experts to help them in whatever part of the application in high school that they need help with. So if you're interested, click the link below and we'll help you out. Adam Sandler is calling. 'Cause click.